I didn't think this before, but over the last few weeks, I've seen plenty of reels on social media. I've seen plenty of articles, and I've seen plenty of videos that have criticized Georgia and Kirby Smart in terms of the transfer portal, and I really don't get it. I think there's a misconception out there that Georgia hasn't done a good job in the transfer portal, and it needs to stop because Georgia has done a good job. Also, it's very early in this transfer portal era to really, truly evaluate who has done really well and who hasn't done well. We know some of the teams that really haven't done well in the transfer portal, Clemson, other teams like that, right? And then there's teams that are built out of it, like Florida State this past year, Oregon to an extent, slightly built from the transfer portal. At least they have pieces from it. And from now on, all of these teams are going to have probably key pieces that come from the transfer portal because that's just now a part of our game. That's a part of this thing now. And I truly think, I didn't really realize it until, like, I've got an article that I'm going to read a couple sentences or maybe just a sentence out of because I think there's this false narrative out there that Kirby hasn't done a good job in the transfer portal. Yes. Some key players have left. Players that could have helped Georgia have left. Has every transfer that Georgia's gotten in this transfer portal era been super productive? No. You can't, I mean, going 10 for 10, going 100% isn't likely. But I think Georgia and I think Kirby have handled the transfer portal just fine. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. I'm excited to read and kind of regurgitate what I've seen over the last few weeks. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here, talking about Georgia, talking about Kirby Smart, talking about the transfer portal. I want to talk about the newsletter for just a second. It's linked down below. The Dawg Post newsletter gets pushed out in your inbox every single day. All of our stories, whether it be a free story, whether it be a premium story, at the minimum, you get to see those headlines, and all you got to do is click the link down below. Give us your email address if you haven't already. I know I say this every video, but thank you for getting through that. And shout out to EcoPoly. Shout out to EcoPoly. I've been shouting them out a little bit recently. We got to get back down there to Eastman. Where's my invitation? We had a lot of fun last time, guys, if you're watching this video. But look here, I got an article. I got this article. This is an On3 article talking about Georgia losing standouts Marvin Jones Jr. and Jamon Dumas-Johnson. Jamon Dumas-Johnson was a standout in 2022. He was not a standout in 2023. Everyone that watched kind of felt that he regressed, right? I have no hate for these players, man. I almost hate saying negative things about collegiate athletes, but look, they're in the limelight. Jamon Dumas-Johnson, I said it to Dean when we were walking after Jamon Dumas-Johnson got hurt in that game against Ole Miss, right? We're walking back to the car, getting ready to record our riding home in the stadium, and Dean and Matt are talking about, ooh, wow, talking about Jamon Dumas-Johnson getting hurt. He's going to miss some time. And, what are they going to do now that they have freshman C.J. Allen out there? And my response was, guys, C.J. Allen was rotating in with Jamon Dumas-Johnson anyway. Right? He was already roping in there in the first quarter. Why was Jamon Dumas-Johnson getting subbed out all the time? Right? They wanted C.J. Allen on the field. Now, maybe he was tired. Maybe it was a conditioning thing. Maybe they just wanted to keep everybody fresh, and I'm looking at it the wrong way. But C.J. Allen was taking his time away already. Marvin Jones Jr., they just lost a key contributor, Marvin Jones Jr. It's essentially what they just said at On3. I was just going to confirm. I just paused because I wanted to confirm that I had the number correctly, and I do. In 2 seasons at Georgia, Marvin Jones Jr. had 10 solo tackles. He had 2 sacks. Over 2 seasons! That's not a key contributor. That's not a standout player. Maybe he was a 5-star standout player in high school, but that's not what a standout player is. So I keep seeing videos about, Georgia's lost 21 players to the transfer portal. They lost all these receivers. They lost this and that. What is Kirby Smart doing wrong? Not much, because Georgia didn't lose key players. Not really. They lost a 5-star quarterback. They've got other guys. Actually, they lost their only 5-star quarterback that was on the roster, and Brock Vanders. I just realized that was dumb, and that the rest of the guys are 4 stars. But look, you're going to lose some players. Here are the losses that actually hurt Georgia. All right, to an extent, and I think in the long run it wasn't as bad. But Jermaine Burton, look, when you lose a receiver, he's obviously talented. I get it. You don't want to hear about Jermaine Burton. Didn't really play as well as I think that he set out to at Alabama. That I think that one of the reasons for leaving Georgia was he wanted more, and he got more, but not that much more. And he missed out on an opportunity to win another national championship. So he has one ring with Georgia, and he will always be a part of that. And he'll always be a contributor to that, and you have to remember that. But Jermaine Burton, they had better receivers than him. Lab McConkey was better than Jermaine Burton, in my opinion. Am I wrong? He's going to get drafted higher. Talk to me in April, at the end of April, when Lab McConkey is like a second-round pick and Jermaine Burton's a third. Calling my shot there now. A.D. Mitchell is the guy that it hurt this past season. Georgia could have used Adonai Mitchell. Clutch receiver, can be your wide receiver, can be your X on the outside, can run routes, can catch contested balls. There aren't a lot of guys like that that you trust, and Georgia certainly trusted A.D. Mitchell over the course of 2 years, and he came up with, game winners. He hit game winners, right? It turned out that his touchdown against Alabama was a game winner in a way. The rest of it was window dressing. And then, obviously, to lose him, it hurt Georgia this past season. I think that they could have used another weapon like him, especially when you have injuries to Bowers and to Lad McConkey. So, yes, that hurt. Barry Alexander, that hurt Georgia a little bit, right? So I'm giving the counter argument here. I thought Georgia's defensive line was the worst it was in a few years. And it's just the truth. And I thought that Barry Alexander would have been the best guy that they had on the inside. I thought that he would have kind of overtaken Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson and Zion Logue, those guys on the inside. I thought that he was their best guy, or at least had a chance to be their best guy. So you lose out on him. Here's what I'll say about Burton and Barry Alexander. And I'm saying this with all respect. It didn't seem like they were fitting Georgia's culture in the first place. And so sometimes removing things is actually a positive thing. So you can't measure that part of it, but there was obviously some sort of issue there between Bear and then Jermaine as well. So moving on from that. Georgia's added guys. Dominic Lovett was the wide receiver too for Georgia this past season. I don't think people realize that. And I made a video predicting that Dylan Bell was Georgia's best weapon and that I actually thought Ra Thomas had a really good chance. But Dominic Lovett also does. And he's going to be that guy in the slot, and he's going to have a productive year for Georgia, in my opinion. They went out and they retooled with Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas, and they contributed. And they helped Georgia's offense score a lot of points, right? Dominic Lovett, big touchdown against Missouri. Ra Thomas, big touchdown against Ole Miss. So those things do happen. Georgia has also gained guys. Number one cornerback for that number one defense, maybe all time for Georgia, right? The 2021 defense. Who was their number one quarterback? Oh, yeah, it was a guy from Clemson, Darion Kendrick. He's in the NFL, and he led the team in interceptions, and he's the one that had 2 interceptions in the Orange Bowl against Michigan. So they've went out and got guys, and now I'll go back to another miss. Eric Gilbert. I'm doing that thing again where we don't know his name. I don't know where Eric Gilbert's at right now, to be quite honest with you. Somewhere in Georgia, I would guess, maybe. But look, almost speechless thinking about that. It just didn't work out at Georgia. There's no other way to put it. It just didn't work out. It wasn't a waste of time and resources, especially not when I think someone's dealing with something that's much more serious than football. It's never a waste of resources on a young human being, but it doesn't always work out. Georgia doesn't have to use the transfer portal. And Georgia losing players doesn't matter because they're going to get them through recruiting. Georgia's put up a number one class. Kirby's gotten multiple number one classes. I don't think he's finished outside the top 5. They're always going to have the players, and people are going to want to come to Georgia. Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas were the top, if not the second, best receiver on their teams. And they both left for Georgia. Trevor Etienne just jumped ship from Florida to Georgia, right? Trevor Etienne, a guy that would have been the lead back at Florida, would have had a brand new quarterback, or I guess they would have Graham Mertz still. But a guy that he knows what his situation is over there, he left to go possibly be the guy at Georgia. Or, I mean, you know that how Georgia uses the running backs. It's a rotation unless they deem that one guy really is a star. Maybe Trevor Etienne could be that for Georgia, but that just doesn't really happen anymore. At least it hasn't in the last few years. He left his, I mean, he was a Gator, and now he's a Dawg. Now he's a Dawg. So people from all over the country want to play for Georgia. And that's kind of my point here. I just don't think that Kirby is failing at the transfer portal. I can't believe that people are saying that. Maybe I should have made this a TikTok, but thank you for watching. The link is down below. This is getting ridiculous, guys.